All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast. We're talking about performance manual therapy with Mike Stella. So you can check Mike out at MikeStellaMovement.com. So Mike is an athletic trainer, owns his own business, and he's kind of got his hand in a couple different areas, as some of the other athletic trainers were talking about during AT-Owned Business Series. And of course, I'm joined with the expert himself, as he's going to say he's not, is Adam Halpern. And so Adam's really connected me with a lot of different people who are innovating and changing athletic training, changing the model, the aspect, or the, rather than just being in the high school, different things that athletic trainers can do. So Adam, again, welcome back, and thanks for connecting me with everybody. This is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/performance manual therapy, because that is Mike's business, performance manual therapy. So again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/performance manual therapy. So without much further ado, Mike, let's get to you and hear your athletic trainer story.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks guys for having me. It's great to be on and get a chance to talk to you guys about this. This is athletic training is my passion. You know, it's been for a long time, and it's great to see, you know, the profession start to move in different directions. So my story, originally, I guess, how I got into athletic training was I was a high school lacrosse player, and I was a fairly highly recruited lacrosse player, and I ended up having a catastrophic knee injury my senior year, which led to a lot of changes in my collegiate destination for lacrosse and for school. So I ended up at Marist, which was the last D1 that was willing to give me any money, and they happened to have an athletic training program. So it was kind of serendipitous in that way, I suppose. And so I switched over to that major, and that was kind of how it happened. I think I was never able to get back to my prior level of performance. I always had either complications with the knee, or it led into a lot of other injuries and issues that I was experiencing. And I guess that kind of lit the fire for, you know, not wanting to see other athletes kind of fall through the cracks and have that happen to them. So, you know, again, really passionate about, you know, obviously the manual therapy side, but just how do we integrate that with a performance model so that we're optimizing our results in the least amount of time.
All right. So then we're talking about performance manual therapy. We're going to get to that, but what got you after college? What did you do?
So I went, you know, so I did athletic training at Marist, and my first job actually out of school was with the University of Florida. I was really fortunate to nail a position down there. It was actually supposed to be a grad assistantship, but they had some structural changes to their athletic training team that year, so they actually made up a new position for me. So I was like an interim athletic trainer with track and field as they were expanding the staff for that sport. But I got to work with a lot of different sports there, and my time there with Andy Clock, who's the athletic trainer for track and field, he's been there for quite a number of years. He's a massage therapist as well, and he was really the one who inspired me to get into manual therapy. I was still dealing with some of my own issues at the time with the knee, and he was really the person that was able to help me the most, and was using those manual methods that like we're talking about. So went to Florida. I spent about a year and a half there, and then I was able to get a grad assistantship at George Washington University, where I did my graduate work, and I met Chad Jones, who's a good friend of Adam's, and that's how we got linked up. So I spent 2 years at GW. I got my master's in sports management, so I went kind of a little bit of a different direction. I felt like a business degree would be more maybe just to diversify my experience a little bit. I felt like that was something that I would be interested in doing, but didn't necessarily have a strong background in it. So decided to take the leap and to do something completely different, which it ended up working out great. So got my master's in sports management. I ended up coming back to New York. I had some family things that I needed to take care of, so I took a job at LIU Brooklyn. So I was there for a year. And then honestly, I just kind of in the classic athletic training role got really burnt out. You know, I went from Florida, which was a staff of 30 plus athletic trainers for 22 sports, to a staff of 3 for 21 sports. And, you know, I still believed in getting my hands on my athletes and really working with them on a day-to-day basis. So philosophically, that's kind of how I knew how to practice and how I wanted to do it. And it just wasn't sustainable at the volume that we were doing it at LIU. It was just, you know, athletes all day. And, you know, we can talk about like the other parts of it too, which was, you know, the time commitment, obviously. And then obviously the money wasn't there really. So it was a really difficult time in my adult life. And that's kind of when I decided I needed to make a change and get into the private sector. So I took a job at a PT clinic, which is, most athletic trainers or some athletic trainers have experience with as well. And I got burnt out there for entirely different reasons. Had a regular work, 8 to 6 or whatever, 9 to 5 schedule. And, but I was just seeing, it was just a factory, man. It was like, we had no time with people, just that whole insurance model of having insurance companies dictate what treatments were done and how they were done and when they were done. That kind of burnt me out in my soul, I guess, a little bit, because it just wasn't true to what I believed in terms of, working with people and treating people. And so that's kind of when I took the jump out on my own. Had an opportunity to partner with a friend of mine who was going to open a sports performance training center. And we have since parted ways, but that was a really great experience. It gave me the opportunity to kind of test this performance manual therapy model out in kind of like a little vacuum. It was a tiny little room, 100 square feet, that I was able to kind of get things started. And the market showed me that it had some merit. So I've since expanded that and broke it out onto my own with the Movement Underground. And I'm planning to expand that model into a multidisciplinary model.
All right, so just continue on that right there. You got Movement Underground, talking about expanding the performance manual therapy. So it was started as like a 10 by 10 room in the back of a
basically, yeah,
center. So just continue there. Tell me the story about performance manual therapy.
Okay. Yeah, great. So what we were doing was trying to, as part of our intake assessment with our athletes, just, like on the performance side, like an FMS or a movement screen and a table assessment, lifestyle and habits assessment, and just kind of really looking at, what our athletes' goals were and where they are on that spectrum of, training and how we can use manual therapy as more of an injury mitigation tool. I won't say injury prevention. I think, injury mitigation is probably more apt, but just taking a more proactive stance with it. So instead of waiting till guys got hurt or experienced pain to come and seek care, we built it into their training so that it was something that was proactive and consistent. So it established that, kind of a classic athletic trainer role, which is being with the athletes and being with your clients. And it's not just the athletes that we're training. We had general population people who joined our system as well, which was really cool to have a diverse, client population. But yeah, just having it be more of like what that athletic training role is, which is being in the trenches and really having that support system in place for people while they're on their exercise, fitness, training, or sports journey. So, flash forward now. So that, basically what happened over the 3.5, 4 years that I was with that company, it just really outgrew the space, which is a good problem to have. And my partner and I, my former partner and I, just didn't see eye to eye philosophically anymore on the direction that we wanted to go with it. It became apparent to me that he was more interested in the financial upside than the actual, expanding the model and kind of being more involved in the community and doing more good. So the Movement Underground is in quite a bit more space. It's about 1,500 total square feet. In 2 different rooms that it'll be. It's still in construction. It's operational, but we don't have everything set up yet. So my plan for it is to be a multidisciplinary approach, meaning that I'm in there seeing my clients. I have a massage therapist who's working with me, and we're we're in talks with a physical therapist right now who's going to rent some space as well. So essentially, what I'm trying to set up is like an independent training studio, so to speak, but more on the clinical side, and allow outside therapists that obviously we vet and we sit down and make sure they're philosophically in line with what we're trying to do, but allow them to kind of run their own business and manage their own schedule and manage their own clients, but have a really great collaborative, supportive environment to do so in. And I'm really targeting some of those younger entrepreneurial therapists. I don't really care what credential you are, as so long as, you have that skill set and that desire to help people and treat the person, not necessarily the injury or the pathology. So that's the plan, is to bring in more like-minded or similarly minded. Not they don't have to believe what I believe all the time, but just have a treatment philosophy that matches treating the person as the primary directive, and not just dealing with insurance and injuries and that kind of stuff. So the plan is to expand it beyond and try to show the market that it can be a collaborative environment where we all work together, because we're all dealing with the same stuff now. It doesn't matter what credential you are, LMT, ATC, PT, chiro, osteopath. Like, we're all movement people. We're all trying to help people move better and feel better so they can move better, so they can move more. And I think, these divisions we put up in between our professions are ridiculous. It's more of a waste of energy because we have more in common than we have different. And so what I'm trying to do is hopefully create a micro environment where we can prove that it can be done. And that's kind of the next step, I think, or the next why it's called the movement underground is, because we're kind of going against the traditional mold of healthcare. But we're doing so in a way where we're creating an alliance with our clients and an alliance between other healthcare providers. You guys there?
Yep, you're here.
Okay, great. Oh.
All right, so performance manual therapy, you realized that you wanted to be able to use your hands to treat patients, and actually, I was kind of talking with Adam, and he was talking about he didn't really like treating patients as an athletic trainer, and that's how he kind of realized that wasn't his thing. Tell me a little bit more about some of the manual therapies, the treatments that you've liked best, and then the ones that you realized didn't really work for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that going back to that experience of Florida, it was a really cool time for me because it was basically athletic training in a vacuum. We really didn't have any budgetary concerns. Staffing was not an issue. So we got to spend a lot of time with the athletes and being proactive and being preventative in nature and work with really high level athletes at the same time. I mean, we had, I can't even tell you how many Olympians were on that team. The track and field team the year I was there, while one of them was Christian Taylor, who's a two-time Olympic gold medalist in the triple jump. So the talent across that board that we got to work with was unbelievable. And the coolest part about the manual therapy, and again, going into that experience, I was much of the same school of thought. At Marist, it was manual therapy, something considered like when athletes came in and be like, hey, we're not a massage therapist. Like, you're not coming in for a massage. And that was kind of the attitude or the approach when it came to manual therapy. But when I got to Florida and I was still dealing with a knee injury myself. So I had my knee reconstructed in 2004. 2008 comes along, and that's when I'm at Florida, but I'm still dealing with, some pain and issues, anterior pain, radicular symptoms down into my leg. And Andy was really the person who nailed it down, and he used a lot of manual therapy methods. And it turns out I had a saphenous nerve entrapment in the scar tissue from my knee surgery, and doing a lot of fascial work and instrument work actually opened up those tissues again for me, and it relieved that nerve entrapment, and it totally changed my whole life. I wasn't able to run really at that point without considerable pain or discomfort. And I did play a couple of years of college lacrosse through that. And it just, like I said, I was never the same guy really. Andy really helped me a ton, and I saw how powerful manual therapy and getting your hands on people can be, how you can instantly change the way somebody moves. And at that point I was hooked, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And that's how I wanted to approach it was, being able to give somebody that instant result and then utilize that. And at the time, the school of thought was that we were breaking up stuff and lengthening fascia and lengthening muscle. And that's kind of what we thought we were doing. And obviously the research and the science has evolved considerably since then. And we're now taking a look at more of the neurological side of why we're seeing these amazing effects. And still, it's still really interesting and compelling to me how you can change somebody's pain experience, how you can change their movement, and more importantly, how you can really get them to buy into that process. I think if you get any client, regardless of whether they're an athlete or, a general population person, if they're struggling with the pain on some level, that is a huge psychological barrier for a lot of people to get into a health or fitness or training program and being consistent and sustainable with it. So if you use that manual therapy as a vehicle to deliver education, if you use it as a vehicle to, obviously connect with somebody and have them buy into the process of treatment, buy into the process of rehab or the process of training, I think that's its biggest, the biggest win for us as therapists that we can get is somebody to go, okay, you know what? Mike showed me a small result in a small period of time. I'm going to stick with this now and really give it a go. And then if you can get somebody out 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you can change the way somebody lives and moves in an incredibly powerful way. So that's kind of what I believe in and what I still believe in and still how I practice. And I think those early years really molded that now, even though it's evolved considerably, I would say, since then.
All right. I want to go back to you creating the business. So I'm in the process of starting a business here with the sports medicine broadcast. Adam is a business owner, and he's in the process, in the process of building that up and helping other athletic trainers create and build their business. And so, what does your business background look like? I know you said you got your MBA, or your master's was in business administration. I think that's MBA.
Yeah.
And then, but part of the reason that I've never really wanted to do my own business is because my dad owns his own business, and it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff, a lot of late nights, and that type thing. And it's just something that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have to do all that, spend all that time. I'd rather just work, earn my money, go home, and then I'm done. And so
Yeah.
for me, that's been a big hang up. But talk a little bit about your background experience and getting to where you wanted to own your own business.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Hey, listen, here's the truth. Here's the God's honest truth. It isn't for everybody. It really isn't for everybody. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of stuff that I hate doing, admin work. I'm not the best at it. Obviously we had a late start to this podcast today because, I'm not the best at even managing my own schedule sometimes, but it's a labor of love. I think my issue with it, or how I got to the point where I knew I wanted to start my own business, was I think because of how passionate I am for what I do, and obviously I'm not a dumb person. Like, I'm a pretty smart guy, and I spend a lot of time reading. And I think early on I read something that if you want to be an expert in your field, you have to put 10,000 hours in. And I took that as almost like a personal challenge. So when I was at Florida, I was like averaging like anywhere between 90 and 100 hours a week of work. and again, the best part for me was I was 21 years old, and I had no other obligations outside of that. So I just immersed myself in it, and I wanted to be the best sports therapist that I could be, period. So I had to learn with a lot of different professionals. And I think as that evolved and that time went on, I worked for a number of different people, and I ended up getting taken advantage of, and that unfortunately, because I was passionate and willing to go above and beyond the call of duty for my patients and my athletes, that the people that always ended up holding the cards always ended up kind of taking advantage of that. And that sucks, but it's the reality of it's the truth of the business world and a capitalistic market. Is there's foot soldiers and there's people that hold the strings. And I just decided that I would rather work 100 hours a week for myself than work 40 hours a week for somebody else. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra things that I don't like doing, but the ends justifies the means. You know what I mean? So I still get to go to my place, the Movement Underground. It's designed the way I like it. I'm surrounding myself with the people that make me feel great about what we're doing, and it's a really supportive environment. And to be in control of all of that and to kind of do it differently than I experienced on that end before. And that's kind of, again, the inspiration for the business model itself, which is, I want to bring in really good therapists that want to be there, and they're in control of their own financial destiny. And yes, they're going to pay a certain amount of their session fee to the house so that we can cover the costs of the business. And the business obviously has to make some money, but I'm always going to put the higher value proposition with the therapist versus the business. And I think that's how you build culture. And I think the culture is what's going to attract clients. And those clients are obviously what's going to have us all get paid, right? So it's really more of an abundance mindset than a scarcity mindset, or at least that's what I'm intentionally trying to do, is just build a place where a young therapist who maybe doesn't have the business savvy to do it on their own, but has that entrepreneurial spirit and really wants to work at it, has a place to get some professional and personal development, as well as a really great environment to hone their craft.
How many therapists do you have with you?
So right now it's just me and one other, and he's a massage therapist. He actually was an intern for me for a year, and so this is a perfect example, right? So Anthony, he came to me. He was a year into massage therapy school, and he was like, "Listen, I really want to work more with athletes, and I'm really not great at evaluation. I really want to learn. Would you mind if I interned for you or shadowed you?" And I said, "Absolutely, that's awesome." So I scheduled him for 10 hours a week to be there. And he was there for like 35 hours a week, 40 hours a week, or more sometimes. He just wanted it so badly. And so he got his license, and he's just one of those people that has like the intangibles, like the interpersonal skills. Obviously he's got great hands. He's really worked hard at his craft. And now I'm in a position where I can give him an environment to continue to learn, continue to grow, but also have a little bit of autonomy in terms of his schedule and those types of things. And I think that's really what the younger the newer grad is probably looking for. A lot of the, younger people are looking for a more flexible lifestyle and the ability to earn their money without necessarily having to do the classic role, whether it's an athletic trainer or physical therapist. I mean, look at any of the rehab professions. None of them have, they're not all, cracked up to what people think they are in terms of like your ability to make money or have like a schedule that, works conducively with your lifestyle. So that's what I'm attempting to do. So it's me and Anthony right now. I have a physical therapist who I'm speaking with and who is in the process. She was actually having her own thing in a CrossFit gym, which just fell through. So she's going to come over and probably rent some space or work with us and see her clients out of our location. So we're excited to continue to grow the team. And obviously I'm even more excited that it's another professional. And again, we're trying to break down those walls, and I'm bringing in people who don't see the credential. They see the person and they see the individual and what we're all capable of when we push in the same direction.
Dive in a little bit into how you formed your business, because I get questions all the time, or we see it in all of our social media communication with athletic trainers all over the country, that they don't know how to start, and they don't feel with the standing orders that they can do it, that they feel they're limited in certain settings. So kind of just give a little bit of understanding as to how you are able to do athletic training, or is it more performance, or when you are blending the two together based on the license and the scope of practice?
Yeah, I mean, it is both, and obviously I have a certification as a personal trainer, strength coach as well. So, it is interesting. Every state's different. New York is even one of the tougher ones to potentially do this in. And the hard part about New York specifically is that our practice act is like 25 years old, and there's so many there's all gray area. Nothing is really clearly defined in terms of private practice or private scope. So the stance that I take is kind of like putting all the pieces in place, which is, I have a medical director, an orthopedic surgeon who was gracious enough to give me standing orders. And the way that I set up the business as a membership model, so, my standing orders are to treat my members, evaluate and treat as necessary. And the other way I approach it is just, I don't misrepresent myself. I don't tell people that I'm a different credential. They sign off that I am an athletic trainer. This is what an athletic trainer is. They identify themselves as an athlete in their intake paperwork. So, whether that's a recreational fitness athlete or a runner or, and again, I don't know if I need to do that, but I do as from my understanding from the Practice Act, just so that if I ever had to go to court for whatever reason, I would be able to prove that I've put these things in place, and kind of CYA type of deal. Again, on the actual business side, I'm an LLC. It's a limited liability company. It's a non-medical, so again, I'm not working through like insurance or anything like that. So it's a cash-based business, and it is more of a personal training aspect than it is. The manual therapy only makes up a small part of what we're doing. And then the other aspect of the business is a, recovery model. So, we're building a room out, which will be like a membership model recovery room that'll have infrared sauna, cold whirlpools, the Normatec systems, and just more of these recovery modalities that athletes can use on a regular basis and have access to, and some injury evals. And again, I just stay in my lane, and that's the biggest thing. And that's what I'm, so obviously the physical therapist who comes to work with us, she's going to be able to do different things than I'm doing, which is fine. That's, her scope. I stick to basic soft tissue work and corrective exercise and strength and conditioning training. And that's kind of what's worked for me, so in an hour session, it might be 20 minutes of manual therapy, maybe up to 30 minutes, and then 30 or 40 minutes of movement and corrective exercise. We don't have any clinical grade modalities in the clinic, right? So there's no e-stim, or ultrasound, or laser, or anything that you would need a specific script for. So we keep it strictly over the counter only in terms of our modalities, like basic heat packs that you can buy, like for example, like the Hyper Ice Venom. It's like a vibrating heat pack that you can wear around your back. Or, like a Compex unit, which is an over-the-counter e-stim unit, which we don't really use that often. But, in cases where we want to do some like neuro-re-ed or something like that, it does have settings that mimic what you would do on a clinical grade e-stim unit. So, again, I think just taking the necessary precautions, putting the insurances in place. In terms of actually starting a business, it's really not, it's complicated, but there are plenty of resources out there, like which business formation is right for you in terms of LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, and deciding, and all that has to do with how you're going to be taxed, and how the state is going to recognize you in terms of taxing you. So it's an LLC, which gives me the most flexibility in terms of taxation. It was the easiest and quickest to get started, and it was relatively inexpensive. And so that's kind of the direction that I went. I hope that answers your question. There's definitely some other nuances to it.
Athletic trainers are always trying to start the athletic training service business is the standing orders. So
right.
What was your relationship with your ortho that kind of allowed you to do it? And is that ortho in a big institution? Was their legal department weary about having you as this outside entity, and their insurance policy is covering you? Like, just explain that, because that happens every day across the country with
so I think so it was kind of an interesting thing. So I was originally set up with a different physician who had a private practice, so when I first started it, and then I had met another doctor just through a client, another orthopedist. He's with NYU, and or at the time he was transitioning to NYU. He was also private practice when we first met. And, he's a shoulder knee guy and just really loved what we were doing. He really loved the approach, as opposed to, and again, the way I kind of positioned it with him was, listen, I'm not trying to replace your physical therapy, right? So now he's at NYU. They have their own physical therapy department. We're not a physical therapy clinic. So he doesn't send me post-ops. He doesn't send me, really acute stuff. That he'll still refer out to his physical therapy people. And then so the relationship I have with him is when they get to that return to play decision, right? Let's just say it's an ACL athlete, 7-8 months goes by, they go back to see Dr. Shah, and he determines that they're cleared for participation in sport, right? They're done with that rehabilitation process. Then he just gives them my information. Hey, this is somebody who can continue this. I'm more of in a reconditioning niche. That's the niche that I've kind of positioned myself in, which is like that halfway house between physical therapy and return to competition, and more on the performance side. So he just makes that referral, and not all the athletes or all the referrals come in, but the ones that do for an eval, generally speaking, are kind of seeking that continuation of care. And because we have the relationship with the strength and conditioning center, we have the ability to get them into like unlimited training programs where it's not so much like a 2 times a week thing. Now they go from 2 or 3 days a week of physical therapy into a training system where they're in there on an unlimited basis if they want to. So we'll see our athletes anywhere between 4 to 6 days a week for training. So, and then we just incorporate their corrective exercise and their recovery in with that training model. So I think the membership model kind of is a workaround in a lot of senses, because it is somebody volunteering to be a part of your group, and they're making that conscious decision to do so with the information that they're provided. So that's the relationship. So in terms of insurance, obviously I carry my own insurance, and part of our agreement is that, when athletes are with us, he's not liable. And again, it's not at the point that he sends them to me, they are no longer under his care technically. So they've moved on from that medical model into the health and fitness space, which is a space that most people go through when they are done with rehabilitation. Even if you're talking about a general population person, they finish their insurance paid PT or that period of time that they're rehabilitating, and then they go into LA Fitness, and what if one day we lived in a world where athletic trainers were in every commercial big box gym with a small athletic training room, and that person can then say, hey, listen, I just had shoulder surgery a year ago and I'm want to work out, but I'm not really sure what's safe for me to do, and have somebody in the trenches on the ground that can actually help you continue that process. And I think that's kind of what I'm hoping this model can be, is a template for whether you're an athletic trainer or a physical therapist or massage therapist, whatever healthcare provider you are, to be able to take something and stick it in an existing fitness business and actually just add value to that fitness business. And obviously, there's plenty to go around in those situations. So
why do you think it hasn't evolved into that opportunity?
I think, man, it's a great question. I think part of it is people are afraid to take that jump, because it's non-traditional. And listen, I didn't know for sure if I'd make a dime doing this. I didn't know, you know, such a huge leap that you got to be able and be willing to take. Like you jump out on your own and you have to assume that you make zero. Like that's the assumption that you have to make going into it. Obviously you hope that that's not the case, but I think that's part of it. I think, you know, obviously there's been plenty of litigation back and forth between the different healthcare professions. I'm not speaking specifically to any two, but if you look at all of the rehab professions, all in litigations with each other. And I think the more money that's spent in fighting the other professions instead of figuring out ways to work together, it's just delaying this process from happening. It is happening. You know, internet, social media, I think is starting to break down some of these barriers because now we're able to show our skill set directly to the public, which is something that the system kind of kept quarantined for a long time, you know. And I think that restrictiveness of, hey, if you're an athletic trainer, you can work in a high school, you can work at a college or a pro team, and that's it. I think that's starting to get stripped away because people want the care that we have to offer. They want that in-between person that, you know, so again, if you go to physical therapy and you do 3 sets of 10 Jane Fondas off a template protocol, a lot of people aren't getting the results that they're after, and people will pay for results, period. If you can deliver that for them, they'll pay you. And so I don't know. I think partly it's tradition. I think it's partly because of the bantering that happens in between the different professions, and part of it's probably fear. But I think right now the industry is evolving, and I think this is just part of that natural change. Is we're gonna see some guys jump through the fence, and then we'll see what happens. And I guess I'm one of those people at this point.
Yeah, no, kudos to you. Just be careful because Jeremy starts his day with 20 Jane Fondas every day. So just be careful.
21.
There's nothing, hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, if you're working with a person who's a collegiate athlete and then they get into the regular workforce, you know, they have a certain expectation of treatment and training at that point. And I think a lot of classic therapy models are not meeting that, you know, especially as, I don't know how it is out west by you guys, but in the Northeast specifically, and I'm not just even talking about New York, physical therapy has become dominated by these giant big box corporations. You know, these huge conglomerate physical therapy companies that kind of buy up everybody and put in entry-level people, which is fine. And it's really watered down. You know, it's a very watered down model of healthcare because it's all based off of how many people you can get through in an hour. And it's all one of my favorite quotes, and this is recent, and it was from Greg Vandendries, who was the founder of Rock Tape. Obviously, you know, Rock Tape has since sold, but he was the founder of Rock Tape, and he said there's always a market for quality. And I loved that because it doesn't, I can't count. There's not a single person in the 4.5, 5 years I've been doing this on my own who's asked me, oh, you're just an athletic trainer, or like has even cared after the evaluation, has even cared what healthcare profession I am. And again, if you can give them quality, I think that's the market will decide what is valuable and what is not at the end of the day.
No, you're right. There's a big shift in healthcare from the independent practitioner to corporate. It's prevalent, obviously, in just medicine and, you know, physicians.
For sure, absolutely, it's across the board.
Yeah, it's across the board, but it does impact patient care and the quality of growth and development that the individual receives, both on the provider side and the patient side. So I love what you're doing to not to prevent it from happening, but to get in front of it from happening to your population and how athletic training can really serve a niche. Because I say this all the time. If we look at like the definition of healthcare, healthcare is defined by insurance. And the true foundation that athletic training was built on had nothing to do with insurance. So I don't even feel athletic training is healthcare. I think we are our own space, our own niche. And all we have to do is ask the public, hey, do you want to have access to my expertise? And a lot of people will say, yeah, I'll pay for that, because we're not under the driven system. We're not having someone in a cubicle in Iowa dictate what you can do or what another athletic trainer can do. So I love what you're doing. I think it's necessary.
And again, and you know, my experience with Rock Tape, you know, being able to interact with, you know, a multidisciplinary group of people that are really, really amazing at what they do. You know, from chiros to PTs to ATCs, you know, from top to bottom, these are just really high performing people. And, you know, it doesn't matter what healthcare background you're in, they're experiencing that too. Whereas like, you know, the big business models come in and it becomes a turn and burn system, a factory style, let's get as many people through the hopper as we can, because that's going to increase our top line revenue. And again, and these big companies coming in and buying up everything kind of keeps their costs very vertical and central, so they're able to reduce their bottom line. And again, people know when it's just about the money. You know what I mean? Everybody inherently knows that. And so I've come into a space where I'm offering something that's a little different. It's a different model. You know, some people are hesitant at first because like, man, I got to pay like a membership or, you know, a session fee or that kind of thing. And they're not accustomed to paying out of pocket. But again, once you show them value and you show them, listen, I'm not trying to treat you 4 days a week or 3 days a week for $150 a pop. You know, come see me once a week or twice a month. You know what I mean? Just so that I can help guide this process. You know, I'm not even trying to sell them sessions per se. It's more of that like maintenance kind of thing where you're coming in and just working with somebody collaboratively to help you with your programming and your progressions than just doing it blindly or reading something on the internet or doing a workout off Instagram or, you know, something like that. So again, I think athletic trainers are perfectly set up and positioned to take that niche, being kind of like that halfway between healthcare and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
But again, even I love the way that you said that is we're not even healthcare. I agree with you. I agree with you that because it was founded in a model where we weren't worried about how much money was going to be paid in. It was set up, what can we do to maximize the benefit to the athlete and help them perform and help them stay healthy. So I think if we stay true to that, I think we'll be fine. And again, it's about, I think, you know, social media and having the ability to put out content and show people our value instead of just trying to tell them what our value is. I'm a big believer in that. It's like, don't tell people your value based on your credentials. Show them your value based on results and what you know and your ability to get those results for people. So that's kind of what I'm standing on, that platform, and hopefully it continues to grow.
Well,
Mike, tell me about how you ensure quality. Because if you have membership, you have people who can come in 6 days a week, but you want to give them the individualized care. But as Adam's talking about, how do you not give away your services for free? So
Right.
tell me a little bit about the balance that you're creating there, and again, continuing to provide quality.
So I think the biggest thing is, you know, you can't do this all by yourself, period. You need people that believe in what you're doing, that want to support it, right? So I'm fortunate to be partnered with East Coast Strength and Performance. You know, they own the performance center that I'm attached to, and they understand the value that what Anthony and I are doing brings to the table, and how, you know, they're just such synergistic services. You know what I mean? Like having us or having, you know, Anthony and I there can help them keep their membership more healthy so that they're not pausing you know, so again, from that business perspective, it's mitigating risk in terms of loss of revenue for people getting hurt, which does happen in gyms. These guys do a great job, obviously, programming their athletes. And so we collaborate on that. So when we take an intake, we make sure that our initial intakes are homogenous in a way that if I have an athlete, and I get this all the time, I'll get a young, like 12, 13-year-old, let's say a baseball pitcher who's had some arm stuff, and I'll evaluate them. And I'll generally determine, man, this kid doesn't necessarily need manual therapy. He needs training. He needs to build some capacity. And I'll just go in and make that referral because it's the right thing to do. And then there's always opportunities where guys are training with the East Coast team and things pop up, and now they're able to make that referral back. So, you know, it's a win-win scenario in that situation. So partnering with the right people that have a similar philosophy and a similar goal, or an overarching goal, which is to, you know, our goal as a conglomerate is to produce and help train the best athletes in our area. And again, same thing with our general population, help people reach their goals better than anybody else can. And that's how the businesses are going to grow individually and as, you know, as a unit. So to go back to your like original point, but I think that's why you have to have different layers of services, you know. So I have obviously the in-person sessions, and people can buy individual sessions. So I try not to do that. I'll be transparent. I'm going to give you guys the keys, but I intentionally jack up my single session prices so that people don't want to do them. I give discounts based on membership model. So if you commit to lengths of time and you're a member, you're going to get access to special discounts. And special perks, you know. So if you're a member, you can come in and use the facility for your rehab on an unlimited basis, meaning you might only see me once a week for manual therapy or the hands-on stuff, but you can, if you want to come in, the next day and work on your correctives and just be around us, because we can then, make any adjustments that we need to make in real time. That's just a perk of being a member. And on the membership model from a business perspective is better, because I can look and project my revenue for the future. So even though I'm going to take a little bit of a loss on that per session price for the members, I'm ensuring that they're going to be in on at least a once a month basis. And I build enough flexibility into those memberships so that they have, so they're not locked into a session every week, which they might not need. So kind of think like a massage NV model, but meets like the performance and more like personal training services. And then the recovery room, the actual passive recovery modalities, like that also represents a membership model. That's the lowest point of entry, right? So, if somebody wants to come in and use that that equipment for the day, they can pay a day pass rate, or they can have a monthly membership, or they can use it on an unlimited basis. Again, it's all about access. I'm not trying to what I'm trying to do is give people as much access as possible for the least dollar amount. Obviously, we have to get paid too. You know what I mean? And again, if you're giving people results, that they quickly will stop caring about how much money they're paying, because they're happy with what they're getting. And that's what you have to do, is give them value. Even little things can be a huge win for perceived value for a lot of people. So, just building in multiple layers, I think not being so locked in or pigeonholed to one line of service is important, right? So just like any other business, you want to have kind of diversified lines of service or different levels for entry, because I can't tell you how many clients come in just to use the Normatec because they found us on the Normatec website. You know what I mean? So little things like that. And then, hey, what do you need the Normatec for? Oh, well, I had an ACL reconstruction 1.5 years ago and it still swells up on me. Well, would you like to do an evaluation? We can certainly take a look and see why that is the case. And then that might be the entry point for them to discover the other lines of service that we have. So again, I think that's a key thing, is not being stuck to one particular model. And again, I don't think I have all the answers. I'm still tweaking it as I go. Based on feedback that I'm getting from, Anthony and the other therapists, as well as the clients that are coming in.
You talk about just your overall business model and your revenue model. And I mean, your education is probably very similar to mine, very similar to Jeremy's, where undergrad, we got 0 business education.
For sure.
Your master's allowed you to open the business. If an athletic trainer already has a master's, they're already practicing, and they don't have time or the resources to go back to school to get an MBA, what would be some of your suggestions to help them build out their business model without that business knowledge or expertise?
Oh, man. There's so many great resources out there. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. My business degree did not prepare me at all for being a business owner. Not at all. I think I got some experience setting up sponsorship agreements and marketing agreements, and I got experience doing that kind of stuff. So that wasn't a complete fish out of the water when it comes to, contract work language and those kinds of things. I got a really good opportunity to work with some sports lawyers at GW and get some of the insight on the legal side of stuff. And I definitely think the experience helped me, but I am still making mistakes, and I still am learning every day when it comes to my business. There's so many great resources out there. If you're an entrepreneur, the E-Myth is a great place to start as a book. There's so many books on business development out there. And again, it doesn't have to be athletic training specific necessarily to be able to pull some value from it. So there's so many entrepreneurs and great healthcare business people that are putting out fantastic content, that put out a lot of content for free. That you could follow. And then, I would encourage you to purchase, some of those resources as well. Again, what you're doing, trying to put together resources for athletic trainers specifically, because I think it is a unique niche and a unique obstacle, especially as we are in this process of kind of expanding what the role of an athletic trainer can be. But there's so many resources out there. If you want the information, you can get it. You don't have to go to school for it, but you have to do your due diligence. You have to go in and be open-minded and seek this information and be able to extrapolate what you need from it and apply it to your unique situation or your vision for your business and what you're trying to accomplish. So I think the biggest key for me was setting up core values. What are the core values of this business? what can I go back to on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to help me make decisions, right? So when I'm faced with any decision regarding the business, whether it's a financial decision or a personnel decision or anything like that, I just go back to those core values and make sure that those decisions are in line with that. And once you have that base like mission in place, it becomes a lot easier to determine what your path is going to be, because you can always relate back to why you started it. And so that's what I'm just trying to do, and just, let it grow a little bit at a time organically. But on the business side of things, there's so many resources, health fitness podcasts that you can listen to, audio books, whatever your way of consuming that information is. Obviously there's mentorships, mastermind groups that you could be a part of. I know there's physical therapy mastermind groups that you can get in, and that don't neglect, they won't discriminate you if you're an athletic trainer or another healthcare provider. So again, if you could just find the right people that have a similar goal and vision, there's plenty of resources out there.
No, it's good you talk about the masterminds and the resources to work with others. That's some of the stuff we're building out. Because if we look at the traditional model of athletic training, the mentorship, unfortunately, has been, I tape an ankle because so-and-so got me. I went to this grad school because so-and-so got me in there. I got my first job because so-and-so knew someone. And that's not true mentorship. That's just guidance. That's kind of helping them get to the next level. So we're building out a whole mentorship program that if someone really wants to take their personal or professional career to another level, we're able to not just give them the tools, but help guide them into that personal passion and understand what they really want to do, and then help lay that path. So it sounds like you did this just on your own. You might not even have guidance to do it.
I think so. I'm really lucky. I'm really fortunate. I had a lot of great mentors along the way. I had some people that tried to hold me back, and I learned a great deal of lessons from that experience as well. There are people out there that want to see you do well. It's not better than them, so again, it's, if you could take the learning experience from all of it. And I think athletic trainers have a very unique perspective, because name another healthcare provider that would take somebody from on the field injury to all the way to return competition. You know what I mean? Everybody has their hands at certain points of that continuum or that process, but for athletes in those traditional settings, there's a singular person who's a part of all of that. So I think if we can take that to the general population, to the general public, I think it'll be more warmly received than a lot of athletic trainers think it would be. And I think part of it was just my frustrations with where I was at with my career. And I had so many people tell me go back to PT school. And I was like, listen, I already have 6 figures of college debt. Like, I'm not trying to, what does taking on more debt do for me to go from making, 35 grand a year to 70,000 a year? Like, is that really worth it? And I decided that I am more than capable of helping people staying in my lane as an athletic trainer. I don't need to do certain things, and I don't need certain modalities to be able to get people results. And so I determined that, that path was for me. And I think it just kind of happened organically that way. But I think my mission and my passion has always made it really clear what I want to do, which is help people, help people get better, and help them navigate the obstacles in life and sport that sometimes get in the way. And I've been able to stay in truth to that purpose, and I think it's led me down a really cool path. I'm really excited.
No, that's good. A couple of things just as you talk. I always say that the athletic trainer is the gatekeeper to the sports medicine castle, and then it's the concierge throughout the castle. And there's no other profession that has the ability to greet them, treat them, and then introduce them to the next level provider and then receive them back. We're the only one in the country that has that relationship. So if we talk about why are we trying to chase all these other professions and try to do what they want to do, or you're getting denied or disrespected when you're trying to open a new market for yourself, athletic trainers just don't see the potential of what athletic training can really be, because we really are sitting on a very, very large opportunity. But the traditional model of athletic training, which is always an employment mindset, where you go to work, and like you said, someone is always telling you what to do. It doesn't matter how much you work, how little you work, you make the same amount. That if we can have a mental shift to realize that we actually hold the keys to our own future and we stay in our lane, athletic training could be a really, really lucrative profession for everyone that's involved. But it's going to take a big movement of of a lot of people doing it to change that paradigm. But I mean, you're doing some great things. There's other athletic trainers across the country doing great things. So keep it going.
I appreciate that. I really do. Listen, I think we're on the verge of a healthcare revolution. I just have a funny feeling in my gut that, healthcare will be one of those bubbles that kind of bursts in our lifetime because of the business first mindset that has kind of plagued it, or the money first mindset, which has plagued it. And again, we're seeing lots of small clinics, lots of small hospitals getting bought up, and it's becoming part of this huge machine. And the unfortunate truth is that it's so big and it's so broken at this point. The only thing that's going to change it is something new. And you don't start something new by doing what was always done. You have to kind of take that leap and break through. And again, I don't think I'm doing anything differently than any other athletic trainer would in their day-to-day practice. It's just a different application. You know what I mean? It's a different way to get people into that entry point. So just understanding that there are people out there that are seeking this, and they're seeking that extended care into their fitness and health journey. And I think if we can get back to, I really do love the point that you made, which is like the gatekeepers to healthcare, because the reality too for me is I've gotten a lot of business because I'm willing to refer out too. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to understand where my limitations as an athletic trainer are and say, you know what? The movement underground is not set up for acute and post-surgical stuff. I'm just not set up for that. And I'll get athletes that want to do their early stage rehab with me, which is awesome. But I will make that referral to the physical therapist in my area that I really like to send people to. And I might have them go to PT twice a week. And they may see me once a week for a little bit more hands-on care because they're not necessarily getting that at physical therapy. There's no reason we can't have both work in consort together. I think they're very synergistic, even the physical therapy kind of like the physical therapy clinic setting versus the performance therapy setting. I think they're very synergistic. And again, I think the viewpoint is starting to change slowly in certain circles, and I think that's how it's going to start. And hopefully we can just continue to spread this message that there are people out there doing it a little bit differently. And, again, I'm just really fortunate and really grateful to be at a point where I can start giving it back. And again, thank you guys for having me on, giving me the opportunity to give some of this back, because I think it's important for some young athletic trainers to hear that might be considering taking on more college debt to go to a PT program or a chiro program or whatever else it may be, or a PA program, because they feel like athletic training is a dead end. And it's not a dead end. It's just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. It's what's your vision? What's your goal? What do you need to do the thing that you want to do with your clients and athletes? So,
well, what you're proving, like not on the podcast, but with your business, is that your skill set, your knowledge base, people want. And yes. What you're doing is asking them if they will pay for it. And their response is yes. The only reason athletic training doesn't make more money is athletic trainers don't ask for people to pay them. Like, it is literally that simple. There's other things they have to do. They have to have a business. They have to have standing orders. Those are just logistics. The only reason our profession does not make more money is the individual athletic trainer does not ask the thousands of people per year that they give free treatment to, will you pay me $5? Will you pay me $15? Will you pay me $30?
Sure.
That's the only reason. And you're proving that people, the public, former athletes, current athletes, will pay you for your expertise.
Absolutely. Again, it's you can't just assume, but yeah, absolutely. I think and that's what I was attempting to do with Recovery Lab, and what I'm doing now with the Movement Underground is showing that it's not, people don't, again, show your value based on results and not your credential. The credential is just the means to which you are providing as a healthcare or fitness person. So people ask me that all the time, like what's the best way to go? And it's like, listen, there's good and bad in every profession. Just be savagely good at what you do. If you really want people to pay you for what you know, then know your stuff, but you also have to care too. And I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest change people get when they come to my facility is they're greeted with a hug. You know what I mean? They're part of our family. They're just like it was in the trenches with all those athletic teams that I worked with for the first 7-8 years of my career, which was, I am in your corner. I have your back. I'm here as a guide. I'm not going to fix you, but I'm going to help facilitate your journey. And again, if we can just position it that way, I think more people would be receptive to it. You know, we're trying to sell individual services and what tech is the best and what technique is the best. And again, it doesn't matter. What matters is the result that you get for the person in front of you at that time. So, and the only technique they care about is the technique that gets them the result. And again, that's different for everybody. It's an individual thing. So just building out your core concepts, your core philosophies, and then being able to be moldable to each individual case is important too.
Yeah, no, hearing you say that, it reminds me of at our district meeting last year, our board all got together and we just had an open forum and David Gaig, who's now our district director for District 7, he made the point about this whole identity crisis that happens in athletic training where people don't like to be called trainer, you know, and if someone doesn't call them an athletic trainer, they really get upset. And he said it's almost like a form of endearment that when an athlete calls a coach, like that's out of respect. And if there's an athlete that gets injured on the field and they say trainer, it's usually out of respect because it's a quick, efficient way to get their attention. So it's more of an identity crisis internally that we're trying to figure out how, you know, people respect who we are. But David's point was, I'm David. It doesn't matter what people call me. It's the ability to help them get where they want to go. It has nothing to do with my credential. It has nothing to do with the letters behind my name. It is totally about, like you're talking about, the skill set that you have to help them on their healthcare journey, their performance journey, that I think the individual athletic trainer needs to step back and say, what's important to me? How am I going to be able to help the community that I'm working through? And if they call me a name that I listen to and I know what they are, then it doesn't matter because I'm Adam and I want to help them.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. I mean, I think a lot of times, you know, especially with athletic trainers in particular, I get frustrated with, like, we were just focusing on things that don't really change anything. You know what I mean? Like, we've been fighting that battle of call us an athletic trainer for 50 years. Like, how far is that taking a profession? You know, is that a really valuable use of our time, energy, and money to push that initiative? And so for me, you know, I've had my frustrations with the profession itself, but I think I always come back to the fact that I'm Mike, you know, and the people that are seeking my service are because they are seeking care that's in line with my philosophy. And guess what? Not everybody does that. You know what I mean? Not everybody is seeking that sports performance type of setting. And people that come to the movement underground, it might not be a good fit for them. And that's okay too, you know, and there's plenty of people that, you know, whatever moves that person is going to move that person, right? So if you're an athletic trainer and you're really into yoga, and yoga is your vehicle for getting people to move and feel their body and use their body in a more robust way, then utilize that niche and that perspective to speak to those people. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, if you're trying to speak to everybody, then that becomes really difficult. And I'm not trying to speak to everybody. I'm trying to speak to that inner athlete, right? So I believe in the Bill Bowerman quote, if you have a body, then you're an athlete. So I have, you know, a 76-year-old golfer who considers himself an athlete, and his goals are just to be able to play 36 holes in a weekend and you know, not have his feet and his calves hurt, you know. So for me, you know, he's an athlete, you know, and we just have to figure out what we're going to do to navigate using the skill set that I have or the knowledge that I have in terms of strength conditioning. So it really depends. You know, I think your message is going to speak to the people that it inspires, and that's what's going to give you that intrinsic value in return. So, you know, that's what keeps me coming back. You know, there's been plenty of lean times. We're not making money, lots of hours, you know, similar to like a traditional role. But I think when you know your why, the what and how, you can endure any what and any how. It becomes a little easier to stick it out. And so just, again, really grateful for where I'm at right now. And I'm excited to see where this continues to go. And, you know, I don't think I ever considered myself somebody who was going to be like, you know, an inspiration for other athletic trainers. I guess I always embraced kind of being behind the scenes like so many athletic trainers do really well. And, you know, now that like the social media has kind of grown a little bit and I get so many messages, I think last year NATA, when I met you, was just a crazy experience for me because I hadn't been back to an NATA conference in a while, like 5 or 6 years. And to hear so many young athletic trainers come up to me and tell me that, my content inspired them to do something else or or stick with athletic training. I think that part was just like, man, it's time for me to give back to this thing on some kind of level. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Mike, as we kind of close out here, you mentioned like the mentors, all the different people, people have come up to you. So I want you to think of just a few people you would like to mention by name. And I'm going to have you mention them by name and say thanks. And then
Sure.
also how people
Awesome.
can get a hold of you. So in just a second, I'm going to have you do that, give you a second to think. So for me, you can connect with me on Instagram, Sports Medicine Broadcast. And right now we're doing the Student Athletic Trainer Scavenger Hunt. So you can search hashtag SAT Scavenger Hunt 2019. We're doing that in March. But those things stay up, and it's really cool to see people from all across the country joining in, doing that thing with their students. And some of them are really fun. You just have asking people random things, and you're just in a fun way promoting athletic training rather than trying to say, hey, you need to call me athletic trainer. Well, no, you're just a student, we're just having fun. So it's a really cool way. And as you're listening to this podcast, then just search on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, hashtag SAT Scavenger Hunt 2019 or 18 or 17 or 16, because we've been doing it for a few years. But it's just a fun way to get people involved, and it's easy for other people to share and ask questions as well. All right, Mike, you are up. Tell us the people you're going to thank and how to get a hold of you.
Oh man, that's really cool. Well, I would say my first mentor, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, Glenn Marinelli. He was the athletic trainer at Marist College for 30 years. Unfortunately, a few years ago he passed from brain cancer, but he was the one that told me, and I'll never forget this. He told me two things that I still are core values for my business today, which is first class is a mindset. It's not how much money you have in your budget or how much money you have in your pocket. It's a mindset. And if you bring that mindset to everything that you do and the passion is there, the money will come. And that's what he told me early on, because I wasn't sure if I was going to stay with athletic training. He's like, if this is what you're passionate about, the money will come eventually. And I'm glad he said that. And, rest in peace, Glenn, but still take that with me. Andy Klock at Florida, he really opened my eyes to the power of manual therapy and set me on that path to using my hands and using my heart and my head to help people. So Andy at Florida, really awesome. Chris Henley at George Washington University is the head athletic trainer there. Just always supportive. Chris was a guy that always led by example. He always was pushing for, better conditions for all of the staff at GW in terms of hours and pay and benefits. And he's done a tremendous job pushing and actually improving the working conditions for a traditional model ATAW. And he was always really supportive of me, seeing private clients and doing the other things that I was doing at the time while I was at GW. So that was awesome. And then, I guess to thank, the people at Rock Tape, Allison Evans, Steve Capobianco, Ethan Christworth, to name a few, but all of the other Rock Tape instructors, embracing me, helping me in different ways, being that, I think as I got onto my own business, it was, I became the smartest guy in the room, which isn't really a place that you want to be necessarily. And to have that network of people that I'm able to collaborate with on a daily basis, and they're just so encouraging and so supportive of what I'm trying to do. So I'm really blessed to be with Rock Tape and really excited for what's going to come with them. And then just my guys like Anthony Pranzo, he holds it down for me while I'm on the road teaching and doing what I need to do to make sure that we have what we need for the business to continue to grow. And Warren Kelly and Frank Duffy, the guys at East Coast, the owners at East Coast Strength and Performance, again, believing what the model that we're trying to do. Joe Francisco, with Team Francisco, is one of the baseball organizations that we work really closely with. Again, just seeing the vision and not the credential, I think, was the thing that I'm the most grateful for right now. Just, my friends, my family, for being supportive even through the dark times. So lots of people to thank. Nobody gets there on their own. And again, trying to give that back. But if you want to reach me, I post pretty regular content on Instagram at MikeStella_ATC. You can go to my website, it's MikeStellaMovement.com, and that's kind of where I keep like a little bit of my Movement Underground stuff, a little bit of my teaching tour stuff. I am releasing I don't know if it'll be a 4-hour course. It actually might end up being a 6-hour shoulder evaluation, treatment, and corrective exercise course. I filmed that a few weeks ago in Denver. And I'm waiting to get some of the footage back, and hopefully that'll be edited and ready for production by the end of April, early May. So if you're interested in that, I'd definitely love to share that with you. You can come to YouTube. The Movement Underground is our YouTube channel. Plenty of long form content, treatment stuff, clinical stuff on there. And like I said, if anybody has anything specific they'd like to reach out, I'd be happy to help. And they can just email me at MikeStellaMovement@gmail.com.
All right. Awesome, Mike. Thanks. Adam, we know the best way to get a hold of you is adam@innovateat.com. And I really appreciate you connecting me with these people, but also joining me in getting the best out of each of our guests. So Adam, I really appreciate the way that you're encouraging me to grow as well.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you guys both, man, for having me. I really do appreciate, obviously, the opportunity to share some of what we're doing and, again, help you guys. This is how we push this thing forward. This is how we do it, is through vehicles like this, is just getting this information, educating people. And we just have to be willing to give our time to do that. And I think if we do that as a profession, we're going to be just fine.
All right. So again, Dragonfly Max is going to host me at Las Vegas or at any of the podcast lounges in the future there. Myotech, Hoist Hydration, which I did a really cool little video because the Hoist Hydration rep dropped off the stuff here in my school yesterday. And so I did our NATA or our SAT scavenger hunt challenge with her yesterday. So it was fun. And then Frio Hydration, my preferred hydration equipment. This is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/performance manual therapy. Again, Mike, Stella, Adam Halpern, Jeremy Jackson, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/performance manual therapy. Check out the links to the way to contact them, show notes, and even like the Facebook Live video. So for Jeremy, Adam, and Mike, that is a wrap. Thank you.